Hi, it's Kemi with the Kemi Kai Inner Beauty, where we change the outer world by coming inside to the inner world. I like to talk about law of assumption and inner work. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, on this channel, something that I really like to do is take kind of like abstract concepts that I hear going around online on TikTok or, kind of like in the community that's talking about twin flames or manifesting or like manifesting an SP and stuff like that, because it's very popular to use this law of assumption for relationship stuff. Like, it's just really popular, and so there's a lot of influencers talking about it, and I read a lot of the comments and things like that, and I just really enjoy the content. And then sometimes I see these kind of like phrases or ideas or concepts that are kind of being mentioned again and again, and I love to take concepts like that and break it down and like give you, what does that actually mean? Like, what does that actually mean? Because I think a lot of times things just become like these buzzwords that are going around, and it becomes very unclear how to put it into action, right? So, for example, I have a video that I made here on like how to love yourself, because you often hear people say like, oh, you just need to love yourself. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Just love yourself. Like, how do I even do that? Like, what does that even mean? It just becomes this thing that doesn't make sense. Yeah, so I thought of another one that I wanted to talk about, and so it's like this idea of abandoning yourself. Have you heard people talk about this? So people will talk about this, with the anxious avoidant dynamic, where one person is chasing, the other person is avoiding them. American pop psychology is like really, really into this like attachment styles theory, which was honestly just a kind of rough draft of a theory that was put out in this book. And afterwards, the guy who wrote that has changed his tune about it, but it really caught on, and everybody talks about it like it's set in stone that can't be changed. I challenge that. Honestly, I don't think that's the case. Anyways, there's this idea that, that in the dynamic, could be the twin flame dynamic, or when you're trying to manifest, sometimes people are trying to get someone that doesn't want to be gotten, or they're, in the twin flame journey, people are basically like, they've made this entire huge theory about how you can be in a spiritual process where your one soul split into two different bodies in this lifetime, and that you've essentially created a soul contract where you're like, you've signed up for a journey where usually the feminine is going to be like the anxious, attached, who's chasing, the masculine who's avoidant and like involved in third-party situations and stuff like that, who's avoiding the connection, and that they trigger each other over and over and over and over, and that triggering is a catalyst for spiritual awakening in the Kundalini journey. Now, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying that's what the theory is, and there's a ton of content about it on TikTok, and it's fun to watch, but it's also like a rabbit hole. Once you go down there, you can get so caught in binge watching tarot readings about the twin flame journey, and it can be a real head trip too. It can be a trap. Like, there's people who've been caught in that for years and years and years, where they're like pining essentially for someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship with them, and thinking it's a spiritual path, and it's kind of a trap. But that is another story for another day. What I want to talk about is this idea of abandoning yourself, because it comes up in all of this, right? When you're wanting so badly to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship with you, or when you're trying to get an ex back and using manifestation to try to do that, or when you're, pursuing someone and they're giving you their avoidant side. Like, all of that, in my opinion, I like to talk about this stuff. I have a different take on it. Because we kind of put people in this category of anxious or avoidant, but we don't go any deeper with it. And because I've done so much inner work, like, I can go really deep with that and break it down. And I feel like there's a lot more insights there that haven't been talked about. And by going deeper into those insights, you can actually break out of that kind of dynamic. So let's talk a little bit about this technique that works great for the person who is, like, here's the deal. I don't believe that one person is anxious and the other person is avoidant. I don't buy into that at all. I think they're actually coping mechanisms taken on, their defense mechanisms, layers of the psyche that have formed in our psychology due to childhood trauma, and their reactions, self-protective mechanisms, and we have them. And I'm guaranteeing if you're an anxiously attached person, you're avoidant in other situations. Like, I just don't buy into this at all. I think it's more like trauma and disorganized attachment is a little bit more accurate. It's not cut and dry like that. You're probably chasing somebody and thinking they're avoidant when you're actually avoidant because you're refusing to connect with people in your life who actually will want to connect with you, right? Like, you're avoidant. You're chasing someone avoidant because you don't actually want to connect with people, because there's something about you that feels safer being rejected than actually connecting with people who want to connect with you, right? Like, there's a lot going on there. You can begin to meet your own needs, which is the path out of this. Okay. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about pathways out of these dynamics so that you're not stuck looping in these dynamics. That's what I'm trying to make this channel about. It's like, okay, I was in theater school like a bazillion years ago, and in college, like in my undergrad, I was in theater school in an acting program. Like, I did dance and acting and movement and all kinds of fun things. And I remember in this one acting class that I was in, we were reading all these very cool books from, like, I don't know, like old retro acting books from, New York and stuff like that, like really fun stuff. And I can't, I could put a link to this later because I have to go dig in my acting books. It's been a while. I can't remember the name of the famous acting coach who used to give this advice. But when you're doing a scene and you're embodying the character and you want to make the scene more interesting, because you're not supposed to just act the words that are on the paper, right? That's a script. As a good actor, you're supposed to bring that to life and like find interesting things in the character that you can bring out, not just the words on the page, okay? And so this famous acting coach, she would tell actors, when you're running the when you're rehearsing scenes with your other acting partners, in rehearsals, okay, you do a lot of hours of rehearsal to get into the play and to get into scenes in the play and to find things in there, in the dynamic between you that's happening as you're doing this interaction live with the other actor, to find things to bring to life in that aren't on the page, okay? This is what a good actor does. She would say this thing like, why do I think it was Stella? Okay, anyway, she would say this thing like, look for the little red door. Look for the little red door. And I loved that, and it really stuck with me my whole life, because I thought about that, like, in life in general, when you're stuck, look for the little red door. Like, that's got to be actually my mantra for life. Like, this whole channel is about that. Me trying to show you where the little red door is. Like, where is the little red door that breaks you out of this freaking loop that you're in, that you're just struggling with, right? Could be years, could be like the same thing over and over with someone, same person, or different people, like same person in different bodies. Have you had those kinds of experiences where you literally have like the same pattern playing out, even if you discard who you're dating and replace them with someone else, the same pattern is going? Like, I remember that when I was in like my 20s and stuff. That used to drive me crazy. So here's the little red door out of these kinds of dynamics. I've got more than one, but I want to share one today, and it has to do with this concept of self-abandonment. So this is all rooted in childhood trauma. Especially if you've got people pleasing as one of your like things that you struggle with, like a way of handling conflict and minimizing conflict and keeping harmony, because you yourself are so sensitive that conflict is really painful. So I fall into that category. Like, I'm a super sensitive person. Like, I'm getting so much information all the time from the environment. Like, it's over the top what I have to deal with on a daily basis. So I like to control my environment and keep things calm. I don't like drama, right? Because it's just overwhelming. Like, it's too much. And I would argue that that's what a lot of people who are coming off as avoidant are actually like. They're not shitheads who are trying to hurt you and trigger your abandonment wounds. They're really sensitive people, and you are doing something. You are creating some level of drama that is making it really hard for them to show up. And so, and a lot of times, I just want to put this out there, a lot of times the person who considers themselves to be anxious and sees themselves as this victim who has all these needs that they just can't get met, and that horrible avoidant is just such a narcissistic person. I think that whole script that's been running in the American like psychology, and now just like rampant on social media, you know, that paints the anxious person as this freaking saint and the avoidant as this narcissistic asshole. It's a victim-y, crappy, inaccurate script. And the anxious is actually most likely pushy, aggressive, and ragey. And I can say this because I feel like I experience any or all of those dynamics at different times depending on what's triggered in me. And I have had to learn how to navigate out of those dynamics and act consciously outside of those dynamics instead of letting them play out, right? Because sometimes, you know, if you've been through a lot of trauma, like some of us have been through a lot of trauma, not just like one or two things that happened. Like, some of us hit the ground running when we incarnated here, and it's been like nonstop battlefield our entire lives of like, you know, like I talked in one of my videos about being the black sheep of the family, what that archetype kind of looks like. It's like you actually incarnated here to take on all of the karmic garbage of your ancestral line and break through it all. That means your life has been nonstop getting hit with shocking, traumatizing patterns because you signed up to break through them. So that means you've been on the battlefield since you're born, maybe since you're in the womb, right? So, when you've been through that level of trauma, you've got a lot of these, what do you want to call them? I just call them kind of like defense mechanisms that are built into the psyche. They're just responses to trauma. This whole avoidant, anxious, these attachment things. I don't think it's helpful to crystallize them into labels because they're dynamic and they are responses that can arise to certain stimulus, and they can shift and change. And what we want to do is look for the little red door to get out of it when it gets activated. Okay, so self-abandoning, people talk about, okay, if it's law of assumption and you are trying to manifest, I'm going to use some of the lingo people use. If you're trying to manifest an SP, which means basically you're trying to attract a person, you're trying to get a person who either is in some kind of conflict with you, they're running from you, they don't want to be with you, or you're in some kind of state of like being blocked from them, or they're in a, they've moved on and they're dating other people or whatever, and you want to like bring that back and heal and repair that relationship. That's called manifesting an SP. SP stands for a specific person, right? If you're doing that with law of assumption, what they'll say to you is, it's a mirror. So if you feel abandoned by that person, it means you're abandoning some part of yourself. And that's the work that has to be done. This is what law of assumption says on the path of manifesting a specific person. Okay, they will tell you it means you're abandoning some part of yourself. You have to go inside and do shadow work. And you have to try to find that. Okay, but then they leave you there. What if you don't know how to do that, right? So that's where I want to come in. A lot of people don't know what shadow work is. They don't understand what this even means. They don't know what it means. If you tell them you're abandoning yourself, they don't know what that means. What does that mean? You're abandoning yourself. Like, that is kind of like, if you don't have a lot of experience doing shadow work, then you won't know what to do when somebody tells you that, and you'll just get stuck there. You'll get stuck there, and then you'll just keep trying to do what you're doing that isn't working, right? Okay, so let me give you the little red door. What does it mean that you're abandoning yourself? Okay, let me see if I can find this in me and talk you through it. It's usually the best way to do it. Okay, so I have had an abandonment wound. I have a big abandonment wound that I've worked on in my life. My father actually left my family when I was 3. So that has a huge impact on a toddler. It's so weird that in our society we think that children won't remember. We have very strange ideas about children. We think that they don't notice when adults are fighting and arguing and flipping out and divorcing. We think they don't notice. They're like, oh, well, we always fought when they were in bed. It's so weird because children are so wide open with like a sponge, seeing and feeling everything. They're like the most empathic little beings. They're feeling the vibe. Every time there's silent treatment and Cold Wars going on in the house, they're completely 100% aware of that. Infants feeling all of that stuff, right? It affects us. It affects you even when you're in the womb as a fetus, you're feeling that stuff. They've proven that, like, reading to your baby while it's in the womb affects them when they come out. Yeah, well, fighting when they're in the womb affects them when they come out too. So abandonment, I think there's a lot of people going around in life that don't even realize that they've got these things being triggered from when they were, their parents were divorcing when they were little, because people think, oh, well, it doesn't matter because the kid's so young, they'll just forget. Like, no, they don't forget. It imprints on them. So that's when these things are really forming in the psyche. Abandonment, anxious attachment, it's all during the bonding time. When's the bonding time? In utero, through birth, through toddler years? Like, come on. That's when this stuff is forming, right? So the abandonment wound will bring up a very young part of you and can even be a nonverbal part of you that you're working with. That's why anxious attachment or anxiety feels so intense when it's happening. Because you're not experiencing the level of anxiety that you as an adult would feel. You're feeling the anxiety on the level of a toddler or an infant. And you got to think about what a toddler or an infant is like. What's their nervous system like? What are their emotions like? Have you seen babies crying? Look at them and see what they're experiencing. They're experiencing emotion at, like, with the dial turned up to like 5,000. They haven't got any container to process or hold emotion or name it. It is like exploding out of their being, and their nervous system is just being fried with it. That's why the role of the caregiver is to create a container and to regulate, and right? So when you're experiencing anxiety, is it not true that the level of anxiety you're experiencing is like that infant freaking out? It is. It's that big. So, what do? First thing, detach from the person who has triggered it. Okay? Our impulse is to try harder to get that person to come back to us and help us regulate this overwhelming feeling. But what I'm going to train you to do is you just detach from them and you let them completely off the hook from having to regulate with you. Okay? You release them of all responsibility to regulate with you. I'm not saying you don't ever regulate with other people in your life, but what we're learning how to do is self-regulate. So this is a very powerful practice. The better you get at it, the stronger your relationship with yourself becomes, and it becomes like an anchor that goes deeper and heavier into your beingness, and you will not get triggered to the intensity levels that you have been. Okay, so it's going to be a saving grace for you. This is the little red door out. What I want you to do is detach from the person who triggered it. Let them completely off the hook. Bring your entire focus off that person onto yourself and completely face the feeling. Completely face it. Meet yourself where you are at right now. Meet yourself there. This is self-parenting, okay? Meet yourself there. 100%. 100% of your energy, none of your energy is going towards that other person right now. If you need some kind of trick to convince yourself that it's okay to do that and that it's not going to mess up your relationship, just say, like, I trust that there's enough of bonding connection there that things are going to be fine with that person later on. I'm going to take 100% of my energy and put it on myself right now and just not worry about that right now. Okay, so 100% of your focus coming to meet yourself where you're at. Have the willingness to do that. Because if you don't have the willingness to do that, why do you expect other people to have the willingness to do that? You're so pissed at the avoidant because you think they should do that for you. So if you think they should do that for you, then you better be 100% willing to do it for yourself. Because why would you expect someone else to show up for you like that if you aren't willing to show up for yourself that way? That's self-abandonment. Self-abandonment is realizing, I haven't even been willing, I'm not willing to show up for myself that way. If I have this feeling going off, I abandon myself. How? I go and get drunk. I go scroll shopping. I scroll TikTok Taro and watch it for 4 hours trying to get information about my person and what they're doing and how they're feeling and what they're thinking about me to try to calm my anxiety. There's a whole bunch of things we do to avoid ourselves, okay? And you can add to the list. And I know that if you are watching this channel, you know enough about yourself that you know what they are. You know what you do, right? I want you to stop abandoning yourself and come with 100% of your focus and willingness to show up for your own feelings and emotions in that moment, and do everything with your self-care list. And I have a whole video, watch it. It's a video called Angry or Sad, How to Take Care of You. That is a whole video on self-care. I want you to watch that video. I want you to create your self-care list, and I want you to begin practicing self-care. And you practice self-care until you feel better. That's what you do. You let go of all your obligations to other people. You let them all completely off the hook for regulating for you or taking care of your feelings in that moment. And you come 100% home to yourself, and you do self-care until you are out of that state. And then you go back to relating to other people. And you will find, if you do this practice, that drama you've got going with other people will disappear. You don't need that drama, and they don't want that drama from you. And that's why they're avoiding you. And you're avoiding yourself, so you would avoid you too, and you're not being honest about that, you know? That's the anxious person's like complete lack of accountability. Like, we're cultivating radical accountability here, and we're learning how to self-regulate. And don't go looking up self-regulate on the internet and whatever that definition is. I'm giving you a new way to self-regulate. It's the way of self-care actually creates a very beautiful, strong, warm, loving connection within yourself. It's self-parenting is what it is. And what it does is the longer you do it, you start to fall in love with yourself, and you start to love the relationship that you have with yourself. And it changes your energetic charge from this needy, vampire-y, gross energy that people are avoiding. Like, see, you're not aware that you have that. You're not aware that how you're coming off to people. You just feel your feelings and you're pissed off and that other people aren't showing up for you. But you're not aware of how you are coming off to people energetically. And the people you think are avoidant are extremely energetically and psychically sensitive. And they're reading your energy, and your energy is like a vampire when you're in that state and you can't feel it. Okay, but what happens when you turn your 100% of your energy into yourself and you meet yourself 100% where you're at, and you begin doing self-care and self-cultivation, self-parenting, self-cultivation? What happens is it actually changes your energy to become magnetic, and you draw in other people. It's just, you have to learn it. It's just completely different. It's something you have to feel and experience. It's like the opposite of neediness, and a confidence grows there because you've actually learned and trained yourself, and you can trust yourself and rely on yourself. You're not going out and trying to get that externally anymore. And the thing is, everybody and everything that you try to get that need met externally is not going to satisfy the need. So you're just going to spin in that for years. You could spin in that your whole lifetime. You know, that's what addiction is. Trying to fill that with something out there that you're leaning on. Yeah, so anyway, practice it.